Domestic abuse affects more than 10 million people a year in the United States, with nearly 20 people per minute becoming victims to domestic abuse by an intimate partner, and it takes approximately 7 attempts to get away from a partner before a victim can leave. As always, viewers' discretion is advised. If you are triggered in any way by domestic abuse, please don't watch this video. I completely understand, and I hope I get to see you in one of my later videos. Marissa Grimes was born on the 21st of March 1995, daughter to Daryl Grimes and Rita Montana. There wasn't much I could find about her childhood, but from what I can gather, she seemed to have a stable upbringing. People commented that she was a creative person into photography, loved her music, loved singing and dancing. She doesn't seem to have had any problems that really stand out while she was growing up. Seems to have just had a normal upbringing. By 2021, she was a single mum to 2 young boys, and spent most of her time and devotion raising her kids, trying to do a good job like we all do. At the end of 2021, she visited a bar, and I, like most people would, it's the end of the year. The year has usually been a fucking shitstorm. All we want to do is just chill, relax, just unwind and just not think about it. So she visited this bar, and she actually met a guy by the name of Valerian O'Steen, also known by Will. Now, it seems that she approached this guy and actually, asked him for some drugs. My guess would be something like marijuana. She wasn't someone who was into hard drugs or anything like that. Nothing's been reported like that, so I assume that she approached him for some weed. Got chatting, and they hit it off. They seemed to get on really, really well. O'Steen was the same age, and again, very little has been reported about his childhood, but we do know that he was originally from Russia. And at the age of 7, he actually ended up in a Russian orphanage. Obviously, this must have been a really shit time for him. He's 7 years old. His dad died. His mum went to prison, and then his grandparents died. So he literally had no one at the age of 7. And I hate to think the kind of fucking damage that must have done to him. And then about a year later, he was actually adopted by a American family, and ended up moving to Texas. So his upbringing, once he was in Texas, there's nothing to report out of the ordinary. He had a good upbringing as far as we know, but he did have a massive chip on his shoulder, and you can kind of understand why, because, as I say, losing everybody in your immediate family by the age of 7 is absolutely horrendous, but it also doesn't excuse the absolute piece of shit that he became. Just my opinion, obviously. So when he and Marissa met, they chatted for a while. They met up a few times, and very quickly, as it seems to happen nowadays, they became a couple. They were officially dating, and Marissa started spending a lot of time over at O'Steen's house. What Marissa hadn't experienced by this point was the angry and vicious side of O'Steen. He definitely had some issues. He was definitely carrying trauma. He probably should have had a lot of therapy once he was adopted, but he didn't. So he carried a lot of his anger inside, and for only reasons he could ever know, he used his anger to abuse the women in his life. So the couple had been together 4 weeks, and Marissa was over at his house, and she received a text message from an ex-boyfriend who was now a friend, and it wasn't a flirty message, it wasn't a I miss you message, it wasn't any of those kind of things that would trigger somebody. It was just a friendly message between 2 people who have stayed friends after a relationship. It's not unheard of for people to become friends after being in a relationship. However, the message came through, and Marissa was not at her phone at the time. O'Steen looked over and he saw who the message was from, and he didn't take it very well. In fact, he got abusive. He got very abusive. And he actually trapped Marissa in his home. So he had a gun, and he used that gun to stop her from leaving. He would not let her leave the house, and he actually imprisoned her for 3 days in his house with this gun. While he held her captive for these 3 days, he brandished the gun, he refused to let her leave, and he threatened to kill her. So she must have been terrified. Her kids are at their grandparents while this is happening, and she must have spent so much time worried as to what was going to happen to her and then what would happen to her children because of this. But O'Steen actually messed up, and she managed to send a text message to her dad after 3 days. And the text message was literally just a "come and get me" kind of message. So her dad, Daryl, called the police, and O'Steen was arrested, taken away, and Marissa was able to get away from him. While he was in prison, he threatened to kill her. He told people he was going to kill her. He was angry. He was really, really angry that this had happened to him. After a couple of days, he posted the $500 bail. What the fuck is that, by the way? On the terms that he wore a GPS tracker and he was not allowed any contact with Marissa. Well, he broke that. Of course he broke that, because why wouldn't he break that? Stupid. Anyway, while he was inside, Marissa's parents and her friends had convinced her to move away. They had heard the rumors that he was going to kill her. They feared for her life. They were really, really worried. So worried. They were really worried. There we go. They were really worried for her life, so they actually convinced her that she was going to leave. She was going to put all of her stuff into a U-Haul van and get the fuck out of town. But unbeknownst to her family, she was back in touch with him. He'd contacted her as soon as he got out of prison because, you know, he was staying away from her. So he texted her with all of the apologies that's always sent through. "I'm really sorry, I didn't mean it, blah, 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 bullshit." They were back to texting regularly, talking on the phone. On the 12th of February 2022, Marissa filled up that U-Haul van and she told her dad that she was going to pick up her child and then she was going to get the fuck out of Dodge. But this is not what happened. At approximately 9 p.m, she actually turned up at O'Steen's house. Apparently, she was going to say her quick little goodbye and then go. But this actually ended up with them spending the evening together. And at around 10 to midnight, they both went over to see O'Steen's neighbour, a guy called Jake Skelly. Skelly would actually later tell the police that he saw O'Steen threaten Marissa with a gun that night. And then, unfortunately, that actually turned into the last time anyone saw Marissa alive. Weirdly, at 3:48 a.m, Marissa's dad received a text message from Marissa that said, "No cops, no reply." Honestly, I have no idea what it means. Like, is it like, don't send any cops and there'll be no reply? I honestly don't get it. I don't get it. I don't actually understand what it means, but it was a message from O'Steen, not from Marissa. Later that morning, he actually reported Marissa missing to the police after she failed to pick up the child that she was supposed to have picked up the night before. And there was nothing. Like, there was no sign of this woman anywhere. Like, we're talking days of searching. They searched the local areas. They spoke to whoever they could speak to, did whatever police work they generally do when somebody's missing. There was no sign of her anywhere. So she was reported missing on the 13th of Feb, and there were no leads until the 21st of Feb. So, what's that, 8 days later? When they actually discovered the U-Haul van. The van was still full of all of her stuff, but there was no sign of Marissa anywhere. The van itself was only about a mile away from O'Steen's property, so because of the location of the van and the close proximity to his house, O'Steen was actually named as a prime suspect and a warrant was issued for his arrest. On the 22nd of February, O'Steen was taken into custody, and while he was being questioned, his house was thoroughly and forensically searched. There was no denying that O'Steen had issues with Marissa, and that he obviously had a motive. He had been in prison like 2 weeks previously, telling people he was going to kill her, so it didn't take much to point the finger in his direction at all. During the search in the house, they found this unmistakable odour coming from a wardrobe. So upon opening the wardrobe, they actually found an entrance to the crawl space underneath the house. And then inside the crawl space, unfortunately, they found Marissa's body wrapped in tarpaulin just under the house. He had literally just killed her, wrapped her up, stuffed her under the floorboards and gone about his day like any insane person, obviously. What the fuck, man? What goes through your head? It was determined that she was killed by blunt force trauma, but she had also been victim to abuse before her death. She had been beaten so severely that she had 2 black eyes, a broken arm, and broken ribs. He'd also cut off parts of her hair before he bludgeoned her to death. I don't want to think too much on it, you know, but I do wonder if maybe cutting her hair or cutting chunks of her hair was to make her look bad, maybe to humiliate her, that kind of thing. O'Steen obviously denied killing her because, you know, who else would have done it? Well, actually, he tried to blame it on Skelly, the neighbour. So he claimed that he awoke to find Marissa and Skelly in his house. Skelly was a big drug user, and he claimed that Skelly had mortally wounded Marissa, but that he was unable to tell him why or how it had happened. Skelly, on the other hand, testified that he wasn't in the building when Marissa was killed, but he did actually admit to helping O'Steen to hide the body afterwards. What he didn't have an answer for to go with this lovely little story was why he didn't alert the police after awaking and finding that Skelly had killed Marissa. As well as Marissa's body being found in his house, the prosecution also had a female witness come forward in the case. Now, this witness says that 6 days before Marissa's body was found, so 4 days after he killed her, she had been held captive at O'Steen's house. Sound familiar? He threatened to kill her if she tried to leave. She said there was blood on the floor, and he told her that this blood belonged to a man that he had argued with prior to her coming round. What I couldn't find actually was how that girl escaped. So if you know that part of the story, please let me know, because I'm really fascinated to know how she got away from him, and how she didn't suffer and become his second victim. I say second, I'm guessing. I don't actually know. The defense attorney tried to use his upbringing and his time at the orphanage as his defense. Now, his upbringing and his trauma that he has not had therapy for is not an excuse for what he did at all. There is no excuse for what he did. Whether they were trying to reduce the sentence, I don't know. The court case itself actually went ahead in September 2025, and on the 11th of September, Valerian Will O'Steen was found guilty for the murder of Marissa Grimes. And then on the 22nd of September 2025, Valerian Will O'Steen was sentenced to death. now he's in jail and he's on death row. He will get his automatic appeal, and then we will know more from there. Obviously, I will update you as and when, if I hear anything. But yeah, that was a very horrible and very quick case of Marissa Grimes. I believe it was literally 6 weeks from meeting him to the day that he killed her. 6 weeks. I mean, that's the summer holidays in the UK. That's one summer holidays for the kids. Basically, between Christmas and Valentine's Day, they were together. That was it. That was it. And then she was gone. Like, literally gone. Not even just broken up. She was gone. If you are watching this and you are a victim, or you know anybody who is a victim of domestic abuse, please reach out to any charities that are local to you, or to anybody who can help. There is hope and there is light on the other side. Please get yourself safe if you can. Thank you to everybody. If you have made it all the way through this video, I really appreciate it. Please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and if you want, click the little notification bell so you don't miss my next video. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video.